When you send an email from New York to London, execute a financial trade between Tokyo and Frankfurt, or stream a video hosted on a server in California while sitting in Paris, you might imagine the data traveling through the air, bounced between satellites in the vacuum of space. The reality is far more grounded and vastly more vulnerable. Approximately 99% of all transoceanic digital communication, the physical backbone of the global internet and the international financial system, travels through a network of submarine fiber optic cables lying on the ocean floor. There are roughly 500 of these cables active today, totaling over 1.3 million kilometers in length. They're the central nervous system of the modern global economy, and they are extraordinarily fragile. A typical deep ocean submarine cable is remarkably thin, roughly the diameter of a garden hose. The core contains the optical fibers, strands of glass thinner than a human hair, through which lasers pulse data at speeds measured in terabits per second. This core is surrounded by layers of protective steel wire, copper to carry power to the repeaters that boost the signal along the route, and a polyethylene outer jacket. In the deep ocean, where the primary threat is the immense pressure of the water itself, this minimal protection is sufficient. The vulnerability occurs near the coastlines, where the cables must rise from the deep ocean floor and cross the shallow continental shelves to reach their landing stations on land. In these shallow waters, the cables are exposed to physical disruption. The vast majority of cable faults, and there are over 100 significant cable faults globally every year, are accidental. They are caused by commercial fishing trawlers dragging their nets across the seabed, or by ship anchors dropped in the wrong location, snagging and severing the lines. Earthquakes and underwater landslides also cause significant damage, such as the 2006 Hengchuan earthquake near Taiwan, which severed multiple cables and severely disrupted internet access across much of East Asia for weeks. These accidental breakages are anticipated and managed by the industry. Cable repair ships are stationed around the world, maintained on standby to sail to the site of a fault, haul the broken ends to the surface, and splice them back together. Because the network has redundancy, data can usually be rerouted through other cables when one is severed. A single accidental break rarely causes catastrophic, global-scale disruption. The strategic vulnerability that concerns military planners and intelligence agencies is not accidental damage. It is the threat of deliberate, coordinated sabotage by a state actor. If a hostile nation decided to systematically sever a significant number of the submarine cables connecting North America to Europe or Asia, the impact would not be merely a slowing of Netflix streaming. The global financial system, which relies on the instantaneous clearing of trillions of dollars in transactions daily across these cables, would freeze. International banking, logistics, and supply chain coordination would degrade or halt entirely. The economic damage would be immediate and catastrophic, equivalent in its disruptive power to a major kinetic military strike, but executed entirely underwater against civilian infrastructure. The capability to conduct this kind of sabotage exists. The Russian Navy operates a specialized fleet of deep-water submersibles and intelligence-gathering ships, notably the secretive Guji Directorate, that Western intelligence agencies have repeatedly tracked operating in the immediate vicinity of critical submarine cable routes in the North Atlantic and elsewhere. These vessels are equipped to map the cables, potentially tap them for intelligence gathering, or, in the event of a conflict, sever them. The difficulty of defending this infrastructure is fundamental to its geography. The oceans are vast, and the cables are unguarded over almost their entire length. It is practically impossible to continuously monitor and physically defend 1.3 million kilometers of cable on the ocean floor. Furthermore, the vulnerability is concentrated at specific geographic choke points. The geography of the seabed and the location of major coastal cities means that cables tend to bundle together in specific narrow corridors. The Suez Canal and the Red Sea, for example, represent a critical choke point where a large percentage of the cable connectivity between Europe and Asia is routed through a very narrow, shallow body of water. A coordinated attack in a location like this could sever multiple cables simultaneously defeating the network's built-in redundancy and isolating entire regions from the global internet. The strategic implications of this vulnerability are profound. In an era where cyber warfare is increasingly central to geopolitical conflict, the physical infrastructure underlying the cyber domain represents an ultimate single point of failure. You do not need to deploy sophisticated malware to take a nation offline if you can simply cut the physical wire connecting it to the rest of the world. The reliance on this fragile underwater network illustrates a paradox of modern civilization. As our economies and societies have become vastly more technologically sophisticated and globally integrated, they have simultaneously become entirely dependent on a physical infrastructure that is largely invisible, practically undefendable, and capable of being severed by a grappling hook. The illusion of a wireless, cloud-based world obscures the reality that the cloud is tethered to the ocean floor by threads of glass that are all that stand between global connectivity and catastrophic isolation.